I'm Rantasmo, and Sense8 needs more gay. I don't know about you, but I think that Sense8 is sense great. Created by the Wachowski siblings, as well as J. Michael Straczynski, the creator of Babylon 5, Sense8 is a recent Netflix series about a group of 8 individuals scattered across the globe who discover that they're telepathically linked, with the ability to mentally communicate and even transfer their consciousness between one another. The group, also known as a cluster, are pursued by a shadowy organization that appears to want to neutralize them. 2 members of the cluster are in queer relationships before the series even begins. There's Lito, a closeted Mexican actor who tries to keep his boyfriend Hernando a secret, with the help of an overzealous beard, Daniela, who has some secrets of her own.
This is like a dream come true.
There's also Nomi, an activist and hacker who teams up with her girlfriend Amanita to deal with the mysterious organization head-on. Nomi is a transgender woman who is actually played by a transgender woman, and the fact that that's rare enough to be worth mentioning is alarming. I think this might also mark the first on-screen portrayal of a TERF.
Just another colonizing male trying to take up any space left to women.
TERF's gonna TERF, 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 TERF. There are several romantic pairings throughout this series, but these 2 couples are very much fan favorites, and they're certainly my favorites. That might have something to do with them having already met and developed their relationships before the series begins, as opposed to the straight couples who go through like a psychic meet cute. But I also feel like their relationships are just more interesting. Lito and Hernando are simply adorable, and their relationship with Daniela makes a weirdly sweet sort of sense. Even if Daniela is a bit on the creepy side and clearly has some things to learn about fetishizing gay men. Nomi and Amanita are basically amazing and perfect and awesome, and I love them. Like, they're almost too perfect, honestly. Like, I'm kind of dreading the inevitable moment when they actually have a fight. But they completely kick ass, and they are supportive of one another, and they have all the best outfits, and they read Nancy Drew, and just yes to all of it. In episode 6, there's the much talked about telepathic orgy scene, let's go ahead and call it a clusterfuck, that featured heavily in the show's marketing, where even a couple of the presumably straight guys in the cluster end up getting a bit of psychic same-sex action. Some have speculated that this indicates that all of these characters have some pansexual tendencies. And while that could very well be the case, it's important to make the distinction between sexual activity and sexual identity. You can, after all, consent to having sex and even enjoy sex with someone you're not actually attracted to. Mind you, I'm not quite sure we can even say that these characters are actually having sex. This scene also raises a few questions regarding consent that I don't feel fully equipped to handle. So let's just say for the moment that my feelings about it are complicated. But Sense8 doesn't merely feature queer sexuality, it actively explores queer issues. In the first few episodes, Nomi narrowly evades a forced lobotomy that mirrors the cruelty and incompetence that our healthcare system tends to inflict against trans people. I was worried they were going to make Nomi a victim for the entirety of the series, but she fights back hard, and she does it with the help of a community that loves and supports her. More explicitly, Nomi and Lito share a scene in episode 9 that is f***ing devastating, and really digs into the shame and self-hatred that LGBT people so often endure.
The real violence. The violence that I realized was unforgivable was the violence that we do to ourselves.
Sense8's most notable trait is its diverse cast, which elicits a lot of unhappy complaints from exactly the people you would expect. But I don't see how anyone can complain about so-called forced diversity in this particular show, because it's very much a show about diversity. One of the recurring themes is that the cluster functions as an organism precisely because its members are so different from one another.
I teach a class on evolution every semester, and we talk about the engine of evolution, which is variation. I imagine that to be something more than what evolution would define as yourself, you'd need something different from yourself.
What's even more frustrating is that I've seen a few people try to use Sense8 as proof that all of the media's problems with diversity have somehow magically been solved. Like, who cares that minorities are massively underrepresented? Just let them watch Sense8, they'll be fine. It's very much a how can there be racism when we have a black president kind of thing. I do think there's a little something to be said for the show's reliance on racial stereotypes. They don't completely dominate the characters, but they are noticeable. Asian martial artist, white savior, you get the idea. But all in all, I like Sense8 a lot, and I really hope it comes back for another season. Though I hope they find some way to make Riley a little bit more useful. I get that she's sort of the group's emotional core, but everyone else got at least one moment of badassery, and she just kinda got rescued. Maybe someone in the cluster will really need a DJ for some reason. But more importantly, I hope that Sense8 will continue to flesh out and explore its queer angles. Because that would be truly sensational. Look, it's been a long month.